Managers of Reddit, what's the stupid reason a customer has asked to see you? Used to be front office manager in a hotel. In our rooms we had 3 phones. One next to the bed, one in the bathroom and one on the desk. This is already a lot, but in the past we also had an additional 4th phone on the side table. So one day a customer asked to see me, requesting the 4th phone because you could clearly see the telephone socket in the wall, neatly covered, and thus his room was not complete. I asked him why he needed 4 phones in his room. He said because clearly in the past there were 4 phones and that's what he paid for. We didn't advertise online with 4 phones. But I had maintenance bring up a 4th phone nonetheless. Customer comes to the bar and demands to speak to the manager. Won't say why. Won't deal with anyone else. He's told I'm not working for another 3 hours and says he'll wait. Stands at the bar angrily. Staff call upstairs to me, I live up there, and explain he's just standing there tutting. He realizes they're on the phone to me and gets angry because I'm upstairs and won't speak to him. Went down and asked the problem. When X ran this pub he used to have mild on tap for me. You don't. It's disgraceful. What am I mean to drink now? I explained that yes. X did stock mild, and when I arrived I audited the stock and realized most of the barrel was getting wasted every week. So I stopped ordering it and switched to an ale that would sell. Dickhead is still angry and says if I order it he'll drink it. I tell him he'll have to drink 9 gallons in 3 days. Still adamant I should order it. So I told him I'd order a barrel. And if it didn't sell he could pay for the wastage. I got a spare barrel from another pub. Tapped it. Waited and surprise. He had 1 pint that week and sheepishly vanished forever. Restaurant manager here. We provide complimentary bread baskets on our dinner tables. One lady clicked me over, because who doesn't love that, to tell me I was running the most unhygienic establishment that she had ever eaten in. And that, with her food hygiene level 3 certificate, she could and should have me shut down. Why the fuss? There was some jam on the bread. And I had clearly taken used breakfast stock and tried to cost cut by serving contaminated bread at dinner. I'd cut the bread not 10 minutes before, burning my hands on it as it was fresh out of the oven. Definitely not leftovers. I apologized profusely yet non-committally, removing the offending bread amid increasingly patronizing comments about how I really ought to know how to run a restaurant and that being so thick as to do this blah blah blah. On inspection, the red blobs of jam were drips of red wine from the bottle next to the bread basket that the lady had poured herself. Needless to say, I wasn't shut down. When I worked for Apple years ago, a customer came in to buy a new iPad. Totally normal interaction. But before I ring him up, I asked him what computer he has, to verify that he'll be able to use the iPad. This was the first generation of iPads that only worked with a version of iTunes that could only be installed on Macs that had NOS that could be installed on the newer versions with Intel chips. It comes out that his computer doesn't have an Intel chip, so he won't be able to use the iPad. I apologize. Explain that he can't use this generation, but the previous generation will work. And I can help him order one online, though we don't have them in the store. He says no. Instead he wants a new computer. I say great, and begin to talk him through pricing and options. He says no. That he wants us to give him a new computer. That it's our fault he can't buy a new iPad. And we need to make it right. I tell him we can't do that. And he says we'll see and demands a manager. My manager really relished telling him to get the duck out of his store, in so many words. I worked at a marine business for a number of years. I was the head buyer for a long time. One of the things we sold was anchor chain. We sold a lot of chain for boats. We would buy it in bulk and sell it for the same amount as online retailers when you account for shipping. In a lot of cases we sell 250 plus to a single buyer. I had a customer come in and want to buy 250 feet of 3-stroke 8 chain. This stuff weighed right around 2 pounds per foot. He wasn't happy with the price that was listed and asked the sales staff for someone higher up. I was the only one available and had to go deal with this. He pulled up the internet and showed me this place that was 3 states away had it for sale slightly cheaper than what we sold it for. I told him we wouldn't price match and he'd still have to pay shipping. The guy says no I don't. I'll drive to go get it. Great. Go get it. Fast forward 2 weeks. Guy comes in and I asked about his purchase. Yes. He did buy it and yes he did drive 3 states away to pick it up in his Honda Civic hatchback. He blew out both rear shocks because the dumbbus didn't account for the weight of 250 of anchor chain in the back of a car. It was pure vindication. Because a bartender properly poured a beer. It was Stella in the Stella chalice. It's listed in the menu as 13.5 ounces and that's the fill line. Dude asked the bartender to top him off as the head had died down a bit. Bartender does so and the guy wants the head completely poured off. Bartender points out the fill line and says that he can't just pour away beer. Head is mostly beer. Customer takes this as attitude. Dude doesn't like it and comes to me and since I hadn't heard this, I immediately point out the fill line. He ended up returning the beer. I like to think that he had to go to the bathroom where he would have walked past that lame 9-step perfect Stella pour poster that we have that specifically references the fill line and that the beer is supposed to have head. Oh. And I had to spend a solid 5 minutes explaining sales tax and how it applies at a restaurant. But not at a grocer. I worked at a Toyota dealership and a salesman said his customer asked to speak to the manager because Jesus told her that we would provide her with a car. I asked her if Jesus was paying cash or financing. She literally expected us to just go. Oh okay. Well, pick out whatever tickles your fancy. I get called over for a price match for a Lego set. I get there. And it's clearly a clearance price from a different location. Which is a policy exclusion. Of which I inform him. Shows receipt it's from a different location. You have to honor it. Clearance differs from store to store. But regardless, the price match policy excludes clearance pricing. So I'll call customer service and if they overrule you, you'll do it. I walk away while he makes his call. Of course. He doesn't get his way because the policy is available for literally anyone to read before doing all this horse shit. TLDR. Just because it's clearance there doesn't mean it is or is going to be here. Was the casino beverage manager in Vegas and was covering the pool bar manager that day. It was in the middle of summer and the pool team calls me saying an irate woman wanted to speak to the manager. I make my way out there in 100 feet. While wearing my suit and tie. This lady was seated in the VIP area and was complaining that her margarita had melted within 10 minutes and wanted me to give her a replacement as it melted too fast. Last I checked. Being a beverage manager didn't give me control of the elements nor the laws of thermodynamics. But I tried to reason with her that it was 100 and we can't prevent ice from melting, but I sure as hell was melting in the sun with my black suit. She was totally livid and insisted that either we get her a replacement or to put her partially consumed drink back into the blender with more ice. Reblending the drink was never gonna happen as it violates a bunch of health codes. I turned to the pool manager and asked, did anyone verify her VIP status? As VIP guests have an assigned casino host which would liaise with me directly. Or I would know who the VIP guests are during the pre-shift brief. Long story short, she snuck into the VIP area. So I got security to kick her out of the pool in a blink. I used to be a shift leader at Cinnabon. And the unbelievable amount of people who asked for stuff we don't have and get mad that we don't have it is atrocious. That is ranch, meat, pretzels, glaze, chocolate. Our store phone was broken for a few months or so, which has been nice not taking calls, but it gets a lot of questions why we don't pick up the phone when they call. One person came by and said they called here and the manager told them they could have a free Cinnabon because theirs was dry and old. I asked if they talked to X, a previous manager who no longer works there. They said yes and I gave them the sassiest well our store phone hasn't been working for a few months so that is clearly a lie. They stormed off. I felt good about the rest of the day. When working overnight in a retail store an elderly couple calls and asks for someone in the automotive department. We didn't really have anyone for just that area, so I took the call. They needed help changing their Tesla brake fluid at like 3 AM. And they called a grocery store. I redirected them to the Tesla support line. Another time I had a customer come up to me asking for big scissors. So I take them to the hedge trimmers. He later revealed to me that he needed them to cut his neighbor's Christmas lights because they were too bright. Also had a kid who was clearly on Drew Guts looking for a food scale for a school project. I manage a movie theater and oh boy, I field stupid complaints all dang day. Being in charge of our customer review responses is a headache and a half. And the discounted days bring in all sorts of crotchety old farts. I had a lady complain that there were children in an auditorium showing a, wait for it, kids movie. When I was 9 months pregnant. Bitterly fat and waddling. An old man snapped at me for not moving fast enough to serve him a beer. One guy once demanded movie passes because he fell asleep in the middle of the movie and was pissed he missed the ending. An elderly couple threw a fit that I wouldn't accept coupons that were older than me. And oh, the attempted scammers. My most recent instant was just the other night. A man was practically counting the ice cubes that went into his soda cup. And when he said that was too much and my concessionist poured some out, he got angry. Then when my concessionist asked what soda he wanted, just to clarify, he snarled some variety of a contemptuous "what are you?" new and cancelled his whole order, half of which had been made. Then he left. Then he came back 5 minutes later and complained that my concessionist wouldn't give him the other items for free. It didn't actually escalate to calling the manager over. Because the second he turned to flag me down he saw me staring at him and realized I had heard the entire interaction and just left. But Jesus Christ. I gave my concessionist a pep talk and some pointers on how I would deal with a similar situation in the future. And he brushed it off. But why people are like that I'll just never understand. I once had to take Remake out to a customer that ordered a Pizza Hut meat lovers pizza, complaining it was too greasy. Gee. Really? No way. The meat lovers pizza is greasy? No sheet? Huh. Lady. You ordered a meat lovers pizza from Pizza Hut. I'm not sure what you expected. The remade pizza was exactly the same as the first one she received. I hope she was able to find some sort of enjoyment in her greasy meat lovers pizza. Not a manager. But when I worked at a Tex-Mex restaurant a woman asked to see my manager because she was supposed to get 90 cents and change but said she didn't want that much change so she wanted me to give her a full dollar instead. I told her if you don't want your change you don't have to take it but I can't just give you extra money. Even if it's just 10 cents. She then asked to see my manager who gave me the most really look and proceeded to politely tell her the same thing. At the restaurant I used to work at a rule was actually made for serving couples. If the waitress is a woman they have to address the woman at the table first and if the waiter is a man he has to address the man at the table first. It's because of the numerous complaints we had about servers flirting with the customers' spouses. Imagine being that insecure. In California. Middle Eastern man hassling my female co-worker. He wants some discount on a very expensive Mont Blanc pen. Starts shouting he won't talk to a woman. Get the manager. I was the night manager. And a woman. Ignorant fool. Not a manager. But I once had a woman ask me. Very rudely. To get her a manager this instant because my behavior was completely unacceptable. She'd ask me where something was and I simply said it's over in section. I'd show you over but unfortunately I'm tied up with another customer at the moment. Once I'm finished with her I can meet you over there and we can look for it together. Or I can call on the radio and see if anyone's able to meet you there sooner. I was once a Subway manager. There was only 2 people working. Myself included. The other one was a new employee so I was in charge. The customer wanted a refund for her sandwich because it's not I wanted she was a spoiled sheet. Imagine a spoiled girl. Flexing with her 2000 coat and that $30,000 heels. That was her. So I had to tell her that we can't refund for things that she chosen. She throw always the sub. and buys another while saying that her dad is a millionaire and how he's going to sue us and shit. Manager at a movie theater. Customer comes up and complains that the movie Trainwreck wasn't about a train wreck and wanted a refund. I guess they saw the movie solely based on the title. Guy asked for ice cubes in his coffee. Came back to complain his coffee was cold. Women walked up to one of my employees and asked to speak to the manager. Employee said in the assistant manager, is there anything I can do? No, you cannot. I want the manager and manager only. Turns out she wanted to drop off her as you. So I could put a face to the name. I sure did. Small student pub in the UK. Handful of staff on a slow afternoon. Group comes in and a couple of them decide to order some lunch. Asks for a menu, which the employee gave them. First question they asked was, do you have any burgers? Employee points to the first line of the first page of the 2-page menu. In large, bold font. With all options and add-ons. Customers didn't like that. Said it was lazy and rude. Asked to see a manager or supervisor. Employee goes round the corner. Comes back. Says I am the manager. Patrons order their burgers. Chat for a bit. And leave. It's nice to be the manager sometimes. To ask me the price of something. This says here $10 but I don't think that is true. What is the real price? Terribly sorry for the confusion, sir. For you it's $20. The customer sent the order to the wrong store. She called in to check on her print order. My employee looks all over for the order. Cannot find any record of this customer ever ordering with us. She demands to speak to a manager. So the phone is handed off to me. Now I have ran into a few of these before. So after calming her down a bit, I start off with a very detailed description of our location, including a fire station and other prominent landmarks near us. Apparently she used the print shop on the other side of town. Then has the nerve to ask why we didn't tell her from the start she called the wrong store. We answer the phone with $print shop name. This is $name, how can we help you? Some people